I'm going to call this meeting to order at 6:55 p.m. The roll call vote, Greg Snedeker,
Here.
Jessica Foote,
Yeah.
Here.
Matt Lord,
Present.
Alan Genovese,
Present, and I just got a message from Michelle. She'll be joining us very quickly.
Tupper Brown.
Here.
I'm Chris Hinkle. I'm here. And I'm just pulling up the agenda. Okay, we're going to approve the minutes from February 26, 2025. Does anyone make a motion for that?
I move we approve the minutes of February 26, 2025.
I'll second.
What's the way that we can do a fast vote?
No,
Nope.
doesn't work.
Roll call vote. Greg Seneca.
I have a comment, if I may.
But not
Yes,
yet. Let's. Oh, okay. Go ahead. That's right.
Tupper, go
What-
ahead. We're in discussion. So we had a motion and we had a second, so
Right.
discussion.
It's a small point, but I noticed that a couple of the places where a vote was taken, it said that the 6 people voted, and then it said unanimous. In other places, 8 people voted, and it said unanimous. So I suspect that there was a slip in recording the names of people who voted.
I think it was also because people were coming and going, Tupper.
Well, I wondered if some are coming and going, or going anyway. Did some come back? Because one of the 8s was at the end.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, maybe that's true, but I think the unanimous means that everybody who was present at the time of the vote voted for it.
Okay, well, I shouldn't say anything because I wasn't there.
All right, Chris, you want to call for a vote? Roll call?
Greg,
Yes.
Jess,
Yes.
Matt,
Aye.
Alan,
Yes.
Tupper.
Abstaining because I wasn't there.
I vote yes.
And Michelle joined us. Michelle,
Yes,
they're voting. Yeah, there you go. Thank
Yeah.
you.
I'm listening. I've been on.
Yep. Okay.
Okay, moving on to review of the proposed 6-town regional agreement. Vote to send proposed agreement to the regional planning board.
Yeah, so I could just offer a few words. I don't think I have too much to say unless it's required of the members here. But with Kathy's help, we put the sections that you've individually approved on a tentative basis, and we put those together. And then spent a fair amount of time proofreading for content and for just general correctness. And that went back and forth a little bit until we have the document that I sent out. Now, there have been a couple of changes since I sent it to you, but they're pretty minor. One correction was to include the word debt when capital is mentioned in the apportionment section. And we also changed a little bit of the wording around when the interim superintendent is hired by the transition committee. And then I guess thirdly, I'd say that I think it was Catherine who sent an email about some points that she made, and I've already addressed those as well. So two of them were wording. We left a word out, and one of them was rewording a sentence about the section 12 where the agreement is reviewed. And she had a question about the voting thing, but I think the voting is accurately described. So Alan, we can handle this the way you want. I wasn't going to walk through this. People have had a time to read it, hopefully. And I mean, I would just as a suggestion, take it or leave it. If people have content-based questions, we can talk about that. If people have typos and spelling things, I think that they could just email them to me or whatever. But
Yeah.
we can handle it the way you want.
Yeah, so just a matter of record, just so you know, Jane just joined us a couple of minutes ago, and Michelle is Michelle, are you in a place where you can make comment, or you still in listening mode?
Michelle is muted, I will point out.
Yeah. Well, I guess I'll just comment for now. I mean, we what I really liked about the process is we spent a lot of time on some articles more than others and kind of worked through and came to consensus and then tentatively agreed them. Oh, Michelle, there you are. And
There.
so you know, the thinking was in order for the planning board, who will be meeting next week, to then begin their process and also be looking at a technical review, then you know, this we're sort of really close to our timeline. So if this subcommittee votes to forward it to the planning board, then you know, they will pick it up from there. We did get approval of all three school committees. I think Pioneer, they recently approved, so that we can have a technical review done once the planning board, you know, moves it on. I talked to Russell, and because of his many involvements with regional, you know, he felt it wasn't very much of a heavy lift, you know, to do his part. And also, just for clarification, Jay, the expectation is you are integral in the piece that communicates with DESI during that process. So it's Russell doing that along with you in partner to make sure that all the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted. If I understand that correctly, you're a part of that.
Right. So I think part of our scope of service is to facilitate the department's preliminary review. And we're aware of that.
Yeah.
But before that happens, we hope that after Attorney Dupre reviews the document, that legal counsel for the member towns or the
Right.
proposed member towns would also expedite their review. That has the local legal review has to happen before it goes to the department. Yeah.
Right. So I don't know who to turn it over to. Chris, you started. Do we continue with you or turn it over to Michelle? Because I'm a member. I'm not the chair,
Well,
and I see Jane's hands
Jane
up.
has a hand
So
up.
yeah.
Jane?
Jane, can you hear us? Or if you're talking, we can't hear you. Hmm.
well, I'd like to say something while Jane is
Yeah.
trying to come on.
Yeah.
First of all, sorry about the lateness. This is crazy time of year, but I want to thank everyone for such a great process. And I want to thank the consultants, and I really think that we have done our due diligence, and I think that we should have a vote tonight to bring it to the full committee for next week. I think we should be proud of what we did and let the full committee take it further. I think, you know, we all would like a great conclusion from all the work that was done. So I'm ready for a vote. But I'm willing to, I want to hear what Jane has to say too.
Let's give her a
Looks
minute.
like she might have logged
Yeah,
out,
I
logged
think
back
she's
in.
having technical difficulties because she's there and she's not there. Um, so there's ways to go. But this is, another step in the process.
And so the vote this evening, if we were to have it, is to approve this agreement, the language of this agreement, and send it to the SRTB board, and they'll take it from there. And does this subcommittee become dissolved at that point, or?
Well, I guess let me wordsmith what you just said. I gotta say, remind me tomorrow. I think the vote would be to recommend moving this forward to the planning board for their consideration. Because that's, they're the next one in the process to look, and what they would eventually do is take a vote to recommend it to, to go to the towns. So, if people have through the consensus process and looking at each article and debating it along the way, we basically did all of those pieces. So it can be however anyone wants to frame it. You can approve the document and recommend sending it on if you want to put both together. And then they'll review it and do whatever that they feel. So you could have both parts to it, Chris.
Sound to simplify, you can just vote to recommend the document to the six-town regionalization planning board.
For their consideration. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, or just
Yeah.
just to them because they take it from there.
And Jay, I know you mentioned I was walking in my house, so I didn't hear. I was looking for Catherine's email. She is still at the meeting I was at, and she's not going to make it. But did you answer her question? She said, I had one here it is. No, that's not it.
No, I remember it pretty well. I didn't
Okay.
get back to her, but I did address her questions in the document. So
Okay.
the first thing is about the elections of school committee members, and what the agreement tries to capture is district-wide voting with residency requirements. Okay. And
Mhm.
in rereading it, I didn't see anything that needed to be changed. So, we spent a lot of time talking about that, reviewing lots of options.
Right.
And every town votes for everybody votes for everybody in
Right.
this arrangement. And that's how it meets the one man, one vote requirement, with the qualification that there are a certain number of members from each town that have to be on the committee. Another one of her questions is actually a pretty good catch. When the when the transition committee ends, it becomes the regional school committee, and we left out the word committee. And I put that.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
I saw that too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Apologies. And
Yep,
then
that's okay.
the third comment was about the review of the agreement. And that sentence, she was right again. That sentence was clumsy. And what it reads now is that the review committee writes a report, and that report is shared with the school committee and the member towns. But the school committee can use its discretion on how they follow up with that report. And that's what we agreed to. So
Okay.
good catch on her part to make that sentence more clear.
Okay. All right. I didn't want to have you redo it all.
No, that was nice. I mean, as I said earlier, I mean, we've read this so many times that
I know.
yeah. So it
Has
was,
Jane still can't get on?
I see her there, but I don't hear her. I see it says Jane Dutcher, but usually something will come up, what she's
Okay, so
saying,
there's a
I
message
cannot
here
get
that
my
says,
microphone to work on page 3. I question the common ballot statement on page 3.
yeah, so that is to uh, describe the fact that everybody is going to be on the ballot from all 6 towns.
Yeah. Yeah, we debated that in every aspect of that for 3 or 4 meetings, and that's where we landed.
Yeah,
Right.
So it'll go to the planning board and they'll probably do the same.
Yep.
So I don't know, Michelle, if that was a
Well-
motion or what.
Yep, I was gonna move that we take this draft of the district agreement to our full DRAS committee next week, and we recommend to them that they approve it.
I'm confused in the motion. You said take it to the to the full planning board next week,
The
not the
full
draft.
planning board,
yeah.
yes, sorry. I'm still settling in here from running back.
So is there a second?
What was the motion again?
That
The motion is
we,
to recommend the agreement to the full planning board.
Jane has seconded it.
Okay, so let's do a roll call vote. Greg?
Well, can we have some
Yes.
discussion before that?
Yes. Discussion.
Well, since I said that, let me start in by saying that I have gone through this in some detail, and my printed copy of the agreement is full of all sorts of nits and picks, which I have no intention of even mentioning to any of you. But the question is, what's the best way to get those thoughts to the next stage? A lot of them are just commas and things like that, and some word changes and some reorganization, minor reorganization. But I'd like those thoughts to not just disappear, and these small ones. So my first question is, what to do about that?
So I would say, if I could respond as chairperson of the planning board, if you get those to me, Tupper, when this document, goes to when you finish any other edits, I'm going to have you send it to to Greg. He'll send it in its entirety to the planning board. I can have that as an addendum to comments and forward that along as well, Tupper.
All right, so what I'll do is I'll simply give you my marked up copy and you can forward
Okay.
that along.
Yeah.
It's fairly clear. Now, there are, the difficulty I have though is the motion says to recommend that the planning board approve this agreement. And I still have some substantive questions that I think have not been answered. Or if they have been answered, they are, to my mind, in not satisfactory fashion. And I think that you all don't imagine any long, policy debates or substantive debates tonight. I kind of have the impression you think the work is all done. And that leaves me hanging with some of these things, just by way of example. And then you can tell me what you think you want to do about it. On page 3, this is a small one, section 3B, there's a reference to students residing outside the district may attend district schools, among other things, upon the appropriate payment of tuition. And I don't understand how that matches up with the whole choice in process. People who choice in don't pay tuition. And so
Yeah.
are we set?
we, at Pioneer, we have tuition agreements
It's
with
not,
Warwick. Okay,
yeah, it's section 3 and the tuition comment there is not about school choice. It's about kids from Irving who go to Turners Falls High School, by way of example. Okay,
Right,
school-
I thought that, but the language seems to cover anybody coming from outside the district.
No, it doesn't impact school choice. This is fairly typical language, and the language in this agreement, in our experience, Tupper, this doesn't in any way collide with or conflict with school choice regulation.
Tupper, sometimes it refers to special education students, for example, in a small town that's near you, they don't have the right program, they would tuition that student to your one of your schools that has the appropriate program. And it wouldn't be as a school choice student because the tuition might be $25,000, for example.
Right, and I understand that. And one of the sort of overriding issues I've had right along is that this is a drafting committee. And it seemed to me that the drafting is one of the things that we should be paying attention to. And I just think that this language seems to, you know, on its face, doesn't intend to perhaps, but it seems to apply to any student coming from outside the district. Anyway, I'm going to move on, if I may. And I'm not going to do everything, but just to give you a sense, on page 6, there is in C1, there is that exception that students enrolled at the Gill Elementary School shall have the option of beginning middle school in the 7th grade. And that's fine, but it doesn't say what needs to be said, in my view. And that is that this Gill Elementary School shall be entitled to maintain its 6th grade. This is focused on the students, and it doesn't say the more specific and major point of the preservation of the 6th grade. And I frankly think that should be applied to all schools. It's going to look peculiar, I think, in some of the towns that only Gill had this provision. But that's just another comment. The top of that page, page 6, and I mentioned this before, the district shall maintain superintendency of the buildings and administer all expenses. And I was told that administer means pay for, but administer doesn't mean pay for. And so it seems like it should say the district should pay for or assume all expenses. So there's no question about that. Now, rather than just go on and on, I would like to mention one other, I think, fairly substantive thing. And that is on page 8. Paragraph 8 in the middle of the page. That's the provision that allows a school that is threatened to be closed to stay open by paying the staff the expenses and benefits, the salaries and benefits. And that's fine as it's written, to my mind. But what it doesn't take into account that same school will still be participating in the payment of staff salary and benefits for all the other schools. And so it's a sort of double jeopardy, if that's the right word. They through the assessment process, their portion of everybody's salaries and benefits will come to the school, which is now paying its own in full, 100%. And I mentioned that before, and I don't see it intended to here.
The other side of that coin, Tupper, is that the language does say that that town will also participate in the money that town pays to the region. That will lower the assessments for all towns, including that town. So it comes back to them to some degree.
To a little bit, yeah. But fundamentally, it's I think it's such a burden as to make this a rather unrealistic opportunity.
I feel
So,
like we discussed that before and
well,
kind
I
of
raised it
debated it,
before, but I never heard an answer to it.
well, I think that's why we have the language we have now, but I don't know.
You mean you think it's intended that there be that very high hurdle, financial hurdle, to be able to avoid a closing? I mean, if that's the case, fair enough. That's
Well,
what the committee thinks.
Tepper,
But
Tepper, I think with the case was made that, if the district was in favor, meaning all the rest of the towns wanted to close it, because usually it's because it's dropped in so much in enrollment that, you're talking, you have very few students. So, my assumption with that would be, if you have that many students, you've already had to cut a lot of staff. So, your cost is not like a full-blown school anymore. You're trying to keep it open at a very, very bare bones. And it's not fair to the other towns that would wish it to be closed and absorb it into the rest of the district to ask them to pay for it. I think that's really what the conversation revolved around.
Right.
And so I think, in
Yeah.
the end, I think it's probably it's worded about as best as it can be to be fair to both parties.
I don't want to have a long argument and discussion tonight.
Yeah.
The provision says that the town shall pay for its own salaries.
Right.
That's going to
Mhm.
happen. The
Yep.
question
Yes.
is, does it also pay its share of the salaries of all the other elementary schools at the same time? 100% of its own and its percentage of all the other ones. And Greg, you and I talked about that, and
Yeah.
you understand it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I do understand it. I think, but that I when we talked about it, I don't think I gave you an answer to what the other side was, which, you're looking at unfairness on both ends, and so you have to. It's not just unfair to the elementary school town that's deciding to keep it open. It's also, if they choose to stay open, it's it's also adding. It's going against the wishes of the other towns.
Right. I remember this conversation.
Yeah, I mean,
And-
I don't necessarily disagree with you, Tupper, and in the respect of Gill, I just think that Gill is a very robust elementary school, and I think it would be very, I think it would be very wishful thinking to think would be on the chopping block unless, it had a dramatic sort of drop in enrollment for some reason. So, I mean, that's what I keep coming back to, which is why we're here in the first place of trying to regionalize, was that when you get to enrollment that's so low, you might actually be doing your kids a disservice by trying to keep it open. So, it's a catch-22 no matter which way you go.
Mhm.
All right, I feel like we're going back and I appreciate your comments, Deborah. I recall, a lot of debate around that issue or discussion around it. None of this is easy. You try to craft something that provides some flexibility, but also deals with the reality of the situation and the fairness issue.
Right, and let
So-
me,
I think you froze, Stepper.
I am going to not vote to have the committee adopt this document. And the reason is these 2 or 3 or 4 substantive things, and also quite a large number of drafting things and things where I think it's confusing, and where I think that we really haven't done the kind of drafting, editing that I think we ought to be doing, and it needs to be done in many places in this agreement, as I think you'll see when I send you this. But I don't want to get people too annoyed with me, but that's where I stand.
No, I am not annoyed. I've read a lot of regional agreements and much of the language is familiar to me in them. So whatever. Do you want to, is there more discussion, Michelle, or do you want to call a question, or what do you want to do?
Are there any hands raised?
I don't see any.
Well, it's actually Chris is running the meetings, but Chris, do you want to call for a vote?
Yes, I call
Roll
for a
call.
vote.
Okay.
So we'll do a roll call vote, and I'll call Greg.
Yes.
I'll call Jess.
Yes.
I'll call Michelle.
Yes.
I'll call Alan.
Yes.
I'll call Tupper.
No,
And I vote yes.
Okay. Someone had asked the question, if I may, Chris.
Please.
Yeah, someone had asked the question that, do we dissolve? You know, finished our work. And I'm hesitant to, normally that's what happens. The committee finishes its work. The vote is to recommend moving it forward basically to the planning board. They pick it up and they go from there. It's going to go over a technical review. I'd like to keep this open for a little bit, just as a provision instead of dissolving. If there needs to be like a little think tank or something, so this committee could be dissolved this evening, or it could be dissolved by the planning board.
I think it needs.
Later. The
Alan-
planning
Alan-
board.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it needs to
do
be
it. Yeah,
devolved by the planning board.
Hmm.
So
I
yeah,
agree.
it stays open until we dissolve it.
yeah,
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
So that kind of answers that. Jay, so you put out an invitation to have people, if they had any clarifications or language or grammatical things that you're going to keep that, you're going to work on that. And I will, and Greg and I will put together an agenda for the 26th. If you could have that document, you know, you and your team get on it ASAP for any other things of that nature, and send it to Greg so he can get it out to the planning board. So they can start
It
reading it
also,
carefully.
so yeah, so if there are, things that we didn't catch, send them to me. I'm also interested, I think Mac and I are interested in seeing Tupper's track changes, or however he may have edited. I think that's important to see that. So sure, we'll make the needed corrections and get it back to you.
So Tupper, did you hear that you can you'll send it to Jay as well?
I did hear that.
All right, thank you.
I hope this is not out of order, but Jane, I didn't ask Jane her vote on this, and I wonder if she has audio working yet.
I thought I saw a message that said she voted yes.
I don't see that message.
Yeah, Jane, can you, if you have access, I hear it.
He did.
Jane,
Yeah.
I do
He
vote
says it.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you.
So,
Okay.
so Chris, could you just announce the vote passed and by how much, please? Thanks.
Sure. The vote passed with is that 7 ayes and 1 nay?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
All right, is there any other business? Let's go back.
There are no other business matters not anticipated. General discussion and questions. No further meetings needed. And if anybody has anything they want to talk about, please feel free, or else entertain a motion to adjourn.
Yeah, Jane just put on, it took you all our lives to.
Silence me. Oh, Jane, there's always
Oh,
tomorrow.
what a way to end.
Always tomorrow, Jane.
And Michelle and Greg, she had sent me a notation. She's got some real important things that came up, and she won't be joining us going on Friday. I do have a
Okay.
couple of quick comments to make just as part of this process as we conclude. So, you know, it goes to the planning board. it will undergo eventually a technical review, which is basically, does it comply with state regulations and laws? And then that document is going to the technical review, I think it probably we'll discuss it at the planning board. It will go to the select boards at the same time, and so that they can also be looking at it. If there are comments and so forth being shared by the attorney, then that will go. Jane said, so I know that some towns are looking forward to seeing our work. So that will go, thank you, Jane. So that will go to the select board so that they can begin reviewing that. Any information we get from the attorney will be shared with the towns. I'm hoping that the moderator in the towns will just put 5 minutes aside to have just a quick explanation of what to expect in the coming months, and that if all went in the perfect world, that sometime in November there'd be a special town meeting to decide if they want to approve the regional agreement. Also in the works, we need to look at the open obligations, and as you probably know through another attorney, we'd be looking at the assets and liabilities built for the transfer of assets to a new school district for buildings, property, and as well as the liabilities. So that would also be in play. Matt, I don't see him. Did he have to leave?
Yeah, Matt dropped off and his name wasn't present when I did the roll call, but it's
Okay.
not calling him.
Yeah. So he had what was my thought? Oh, he had pointed out that, there needs to be a lot of things done in terms of the outreach to the public. And so we're going to look at seeing if we can secure additional grant funding to do some of the other legal review and as well as outreach to the public to inform them of the work and the implications of forming a new district. So that's sort of an overview, just so that this committee, who's been intimately involved in crafting this agreement, this proposed agreement to move forward. Greg, did I miss anything in just sort of doing a summary for these folks?
Yeah, no, that sounds good. I mean, that was pretty much everything as far as I know.
Okay. Tupper, you have your hand up
I
before
do.
we adjourn?
Let me make that go away. A question and a request. Is it possible that we could receive the copy of this proposed agreement that as it goes to the planning board? Because I take it you're going to do some fiddling between this draft and that one. And I'd like to know what it is that the planning board actually gets. Is that possible?
Sure. Great. Jay, you can forward
Yeah,
that
we
to
can do
the
that.
members
The
as
other
well. Yep.
sort of a related thought I had was that answer to your question is yes, but the other thought I have is that it might be more interesting for people to see it after Attorney Dupre has reviewed it. But certainly I can turn it around and send it back to the group with whatever edits are made. Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, that's good because that they will take that as being what we approve. So I guess we ought to look at it. The other question I have is there any method by which anyone who has a substantive question about this agreement among people on this committee could get that question or that issue before the planning board?
Well, Tupper, those are open meetings. I mean, you're welcome to come.
Is that the way? Is that the best way? Do you think?
Well, I'm just saying you're welcome to come to any of our public meetings. You could come next week if you wanted to.
How about writing them something?
You can do that as well.
Okay.
All right, I guess, do you want to entertain a motion to adjourn, Chris?
Sure, if someone will move that way.
I'll move it. Move to adjourn.
Second.
All right, roll call vote, Jane Dutcher.
She votes.
Votes
Yes.
yes in the chat.
Yes.
Jess?
Yeah.
Yes.
Michelle?
Yes.
Alan?
Yes.
Tupper?
Yes.
I also vote yes. The meeting is adjourned.
Yeah.
I
and-
also vote yes.
Oh, sorry, Greg.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Sorry.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, and
No
thanks for
problem.
your patience and waiting
Bye.
for us to have a quorum. Good night.
Good
Okay,
work,
thank
everyone.
you,
Thank you,
everybody.
everyone. Good
Yeah.
night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good job.
Take care.
Yeah.
Oh. Can't leave.
I'm trying to figure out how to stop the recording. Oh, there it is.